The 12th of September, 1934, 11:47 p.m., Big Sam's hand was shaking. As he wrapped his fingers around the pistol grip, $50,000. That was the price the five families put on Dutch Schultz's head. And Sam, Dutch's bodyguard for 5 years, the man Dutch called brother, had taken the contract. The plan was simple: walk into Lennox's lounge, wait until Dutch was distracted, one shot to the back of the head, disappear into the night. Sam walked in. Dutch was at his table, back turned, vulnerable. Sam drew his weapon, aimed, pulled the trigger. Click, nothing. The room went silent. Dutch turned around slowly, looked Sam dead in the eyes, and said 5 words that would become legend. "I've been counting on you." What nobody knew, what history books won't tell you, is that Dutch Schultz had known about the hit for 3 weeks. And what he did in those 3 weeks didn't just save his life, it destroyed the Italian Mafia's plans for New York forever. To understand what happened that night at Lennox Lounge, you need to understand who Dutch Schultz was in 1934. He wasn't just another gangster. He was New York's most dangerous criminal, the man who'd built an empire on beer, blood, and absolute brutality. By 1934, Dutch controlled every drop of illegal alcohol in the Bronx and Manhattan. But Prohibition was ending, and Dutch needed new territory. The numbers racket in Harlem looked perfect, millions flowing through poor neighborhoods. Easy money. But the Italian mob wanted the same thing. The 5 families had been circling Dutch like vultures. Frank Costello, Lucky Luciano, Carlo Gambino Fee, they all wanted Dutch gone. He was too unpredictable, too violent, too dangerous to control. Dutch had built something the Italians couldn't understand. He didn't just rule through fear. He ruled through loyalty. When his men's families needed help, Dutch provided it. When the cops harassed his operations, Dutch made calls that made problems disappear. When rival gangs tried to muscle in, Dutch destroyed them completely. The 5 families had tried everything. They'd sent enforcers. Dutch sent them back in pieces. They tried negotiating. Dutch told them to go to hell. They'd tried bribing politicians. Dutch had better connections. By 1934, the families were desperate, and desperate men make dangerous decisions. Frank Costello called a meeting. All 5 families sent representatives. The topic, the Dutch Schultz problem. "We've tried force, we've tried money, we've tried politics," Costello said, his voice cold and flat. "None of it works. This man is untouchable." "So what do you suggest?" asked Carlo Gambino, lighting a cigar. Costello leaned forward. "We make him touchable. We find the one person he trusts completely, and we turn them." That is when someone mentioned Big Sam. Samuel Big Sam Foster had been with Dutch since 1929, 6'4", 260 pounds of muscle and loyalty. He'd taken bullets for Dutch twice. He'd been there when Dutch's mother died. He'd been at Dutch's side through wars with rival gangs, through police raids, through everything. If anyone could get close enough to kill Dutch Schultz, it was Big Sam. The families sent Tony, the collector Marinai, to make the approach. Tony was a specialist. He didn't break legs or crack skulls. He found weaknesses, and every man had a weakness. The 20th of August, 1934, 3 weeks before the shooting. Big Sam was leaving his apartment on 132nd Street when a black Cadillac pulled up. The window rolled down. Tony sat in the back seat, smiling like an insurance salesman. "Sam, right. Big Sam. I heard a lot about you." Sam's hand moved toward his waistband, where he kept a .45. "Who is asking?" "A friend. Someone who wants to make you a very wealthy man." Tony gestured to the empty seat. 5 minutes. Hear me out. If you don't like what I say, you walk away, no hard feelings." Sam should have walked away right then. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. He got in the car. Tony didn't waste time. "You are a smart man, Sam. You know how this works. You are loyal to Dutch, and that is admirable. But loyalty doesn't pay for your daughter's medical bills." Sam's jaw tightened. His youngest daughter, Kesha, had been sick with tuberculosis for 6 months. The treatments were expensive. The hospital bills were piling up. Sam had asked Dutch for help, and Dutch had given him $2,000, but it wasn't enough. It was never enough. Tony opened a briefcase. Inside were neat stacks of $100 bills. $50,000, that is what we're offering. Enough to pay every medical bill, enough to move your family somewhere safe, somewhere clean, where your daughter can breathe. For what? Sam asked, though he already knew the answer. One bullet, one moment. You walk into Lennox's lounge on the 12th of September. Dutch will be there, like he always is on Friday nights. You wait until he is distracted. One shot to the back of the head. Quick, clean, then you disappear. We have a car waiting. New identities for your whole family. By morning, you'll be in Miami. By next week, you'll be someone else entirely. Sam stared at the money. $50,000, his daughter's life, his family's future, all for one trigger pull. And if I say no? Sam asked quietly. Tony's smile faded. Then your daughter dies slowly in that charity ward hospital. Then you keep working for Dutch, watching your back every day, knowing that one day a bullet with your name on it is coming, because that is how this life ends. Sam, you know it. I know it. The only question is whether you die poor or rich. Sam got out of the car without saying a word, but the briefcase stayed with him. Tony had left it on the seat, the stacks of money visible, tempting. That night, Sam couldn't sleep. He kept seeing his daughter's face, her labored breathing, the way she tried to smile through the pain. He kept seeing that briefcase full of money. Enough money to save her. Enough money to give his family a real life. 3 days later, Sam made his decision. He called the number Tony had left him. I am in, Sam said. But I want the money up front. Half now, half after. Done, Tony replied. Welcome to the winning side. What Big Sam didn't know, what Tony didn't know, was that before Sam even got into that Cadillac, Dutch Schultz already knew about the approach. Dutch Schultz didn't become the king of New York by trusting people. He became king by knowing people, by understanding that every man has a price, every man has a weakness, and every man can be bought or broken. Dutch had eyes everywhere. Bartenders, shoe-shine boys, cab drivers, janitors. People nobody noticed. People the Italian mob never thought to pay attention to. And one of those people, a parking attendant named Jerome, had seen Tony's Cadillac pull up outside Sam's apartment. He'd seen Sam get in. He'd written down the license plate. 2 hours later, Jerome was in Dutch's office above the Bronx River Club. Tony Marinet's car, Jerome said, sliding a piece of paper across the desk. Parked outside Big Sam's place this morning. Sam got in, stayed for 5 minutes, got out. Dutch looked at the paper, then at Jerome. You sure it was Marinai? Positive, I've seen him before. Collects from the Italian joints on the east side. Dutch was silent for a long moment. Then he opened his desk drawer, pulled out $500 and handed it to Jerome. You didn't see anything. You weren't there, understand? Yes, sir, Mr. Schultz. After Jerome left, Dutch sat in his office for 2 hours thinking. Sam had been with him for 5 years. Good years, loyal years. They'd been through wars together. Dutch had trusted him with his life, but now the Italians were in Sam's ear. And if there was one thing Dutch knew about desperate men, it was this. They made bad choices. Dutch could have killed Sam right then. One phone call, and Sam would disappear into the East River. That is what most men in Dutch's position would have done. Eliminate the threat. Move on, but Dutch Schultz wasn't most men. Over the next 3 weeks, Dutch watched Sam carefully. He saw the way Sam's hands shook sometimes. He saw the worry in Sam's eyes. He saw a man struggling with an impossible choice, loyalty or survival. And Dutch made a decision. He wouldn't kill Sam. He'd teach him. Dutch called in a favor from a gunsmith in Brooklyn, a man named Victor, who'd been modifying firearms for Dutch for 15 years. I need you to do something for me, Dutch said. I need you to make a gun that doesn't work. Victor was confused. You want a broken gun? Number, I want a gun that looks perfect, feels perfect. But when you pull the trigger, nothing happens. No bullet, no firing pin strike, just a click. You want a dummy gun. A very convincing dummy gun. Can you do it? Victor could. Within 3 days, he delivered a modified .38 special that looked identical to Sam's service weapon. Same weight, same feel, but completely inoperable. The next part required precision timing. Dutch needed to swap Sam's real gun with the dummy without Sam noticing. That meant getting into Sam's apartment when Sam wasn't there. On the 8th of September, 4 days before the hit, Dutch sent Sam on an errand across town. I need you to pick up an envelope from a contact in Queens. It is important. Don't come back without it. The errand would take Sam at least 3 hours, plenty of time. While Sam was gone, Dutch and his most trusted associate, a man named Illinois Gordon, entered Sam's apartment. They found Sam's gun in a shoebox under the bed, exactly where Dutch knew it would be. They swapped it with Victor's dummy gun. Sam would never know the difference. Now Dutch had to wait. He had to let Sam make his move, because if Dutch confronted Sam before the assassination attempt, Sam could deny everything. The Italians could find another traitor. The cycle would continue. Number Dutch needed Sam to pull the trigger. He needed Sam to commit. And then, in that ultimate betrayal, Dutch would reveal the truth. Not just to Sam, but to every person in that room. To all of New York, to the 5 families. The message would be clear. You can't kill Dutch Schultz because Dutch Schultz is always 3 moves ahead. The 12th of September, 1934, 11:47 p.m., Lenox Lounge. The club was packed that night. 300 people, musicians, hustlers, businessmen, politicians. Friday night in New York meant jazz, cognac, and conversations that shaped the city's future. Dutch was at his usual corner table with 2 city councilmen discussing a new development deal in the Bronx. He wore an impeccable grey suit, his trademark fedora resting on the table beside an untouched glass of whiskey. Big Sam arrived at 11:30. He'd been drinking. Not enough to be drunk, but enough to steady his nerves. In his jacket pocket was the .38 special, the gun he'd been carrying for 5 years. The gun he thought would make him $50,000 richer. Sam positioned himself near the bar, watching, waiting. Dutch had his back turned, focused on the conversation, vulnerable. At 11:47, Sam made his move. He walked through the crowd, hand inside his jacket, gripping the pistol. Nobody noticed. Sam was always near Dutch. He was the bodyguard. His presence was normal. Expected, Sam came up behind Dutch's chair, 6 feet away. Then 4, then 2. He drew the gun. The bartender saw it first. His eyes went wide. But before he could shout a warning, Sam had already aimed at the back of Dutch's head and pulled the trigger. Click. The sound of a firing pin hitting nothing echoed in that suddenly silent room. The jazz band stopped mid. Note, conversations died mid-sentence. 300 people turned to look at Big Sam standing there with a useless gun in his shaking hands and Dutch Schultz sitting calmly, not even flinching. Dutch took a slow sip of his whiskey. Then he set the glass down gently and turned around in his chair. He looked at Sam. Just looked at him, and in that look was something more terrifying than anger. It was disappointment. "I've been counting on you," Dutch said quietly. Those 5 words hit Sam harder than any bullet. Because in that moment, Sam understood. Dutch had known. He'd known everything. The approach from Tony Marinai, the $50,000, the plan, all of it. And instead of killing Sam, instead of disappearing him into the river, Dutch had let him walk into this room and pull that trigger. Let him reveal himself to 300 witnesses. Let him destroy his own reputation, his own honor, in front of the entire community. Sam's gun clattered to the floor. His legs gave out. He sank to his knees. "I am sorry, Dutch. I am sorry, my daughter." "I know about your daughter," Dutch interrupted. His voice was still quiet, but it carried through the silent room. "I've known for 6 months. You think I don't take care of my people? Dutch reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. He dropped it on the table. Kesh's medical bills, all of them, paid in full this morning. There is also a check in there for $5,000 for your family, for whatever you need. Sam's eyes filled with tears. But why didn't you tell me? Because I needed to know, Dutch said. I needed to know if you'd choose money over loyalty, if you'd choose their 50,000 over our brotherhood. He paused. Now I know. Dutch stood up. He was not a tall man, 5'8", but in that moment he seemed 10 feet tall. You are going to leave New York tonight. You are going to take your family, and you are going to disappear. I don't care where. But if I ever see your face again, if I ever hear your name again, there won't be a second chance. Do you understand? Sam nodded, tears streaming down his face. And Sam, Dutch's voice dropped even lower. When the Italians ask you what happened here tonight, you tell them exactly what you saw. You tell them Dutch Schultz knew. You tell them he is always known. You tell them they can't buy loyalty in New York. And you tell them if they ever try something like this again, I won't be this merciful. Sam stood on shaking legs, picked up his useless gun, and walked out of Lenox Lounge. He would leave New York that night and never return. After Sam left, Dutch turned to face the room. 300 people stared at him in silence. They'd just witnessed something impossible. They'd watched a man try to assassinate Dutch Schultz, and they'd watched Dutch turn that assassination into a lesson. Let me make something clear, Dutch said, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. The Italians think they can buy us. They think they can divide us. They think they can take New York because we're not organized like them. He picked up his whiskey glass. They're wrong. New York isn't for sale. It never was. It never will be. And anyone who thinks they can change that, anyone who thinks they can walk into my city and buy my people, they're going to learn what Big Sam just learned. We're not the ones who need protection, they are. Dutch raised his glass. To New York, and to loyalty that can't be bought. 300 people raised their glasses. To New York. The jazz band started playing again. Conversations resumed. Within minutes, it was as if nothing had happened, except everything had happened. Word of that night spread through New York's underworld like wildfire. By morning, every mobster from Boston to Baltimore had heard the story. Dutch Schultz had known about the hit for 3 weeks. He'd let it play out. He'd made a traitor reveal himself in front of 300 witnesses. And he'd done it all without spilling a drop of blood. The 5 families called an emergency meeting the next day. Frank Costello was furious, not at Dutch, but at Tony Marinai for failing. But Carlo Gambino saw something else. We can't beat this man, Gambino said quietly. We've tried everything. Force didn't work. Money didn't work. Turning his own people didn't work. Every time we move against him, he has already seen it coming. So what do we do? Costello demanded. Gambino lit a cigar. We leave Dutch Schultz alone. We focus on other territories. But New York belongs to Dutch Schultz, and trying to take it from him is just going to cost us more money and more men. It was the first time the 5 families had ever backed down from a territorial dispute. But they had no choice. Dutch Schultz had proven something that night at Lenox Lounge. He wasn't just a gangster. He was a strategist, a chess player who saw 10 moves ahead. And you don't play chess with a grandmaster unless you are ready to lose. The story of Big Sam's betrayal became legend in New York. People told it for decades. Passed it down to their kids, their grandkids. It became more than just a story. It became a lesson about loyalty, about staying 3 steps ahead, about what real power looks like. Dutch Schultz lived 1 more year after that night. He was killed in 1935 by Lucky Luciano's men in a New Jersey restaurant, shot multiple times while eating dinner. But the lesson of that clique, that lived forever. Dutch proved something that night that most people miss. The most dangerous weapon isn't a gun. It is knowing what is coming before your enemy does. It is turning their plan into your victory. It is playing chess while they're still learning checkers. Big Sam took $50,000 from the mob. He left New York with nothing but shame. And Dutch, he went back to his corner table, finished his whiskey, and kept being the king of New York. That click didn't just save Dutch Schultz's life. It destroyed the Italian Mafia's plans for New York. It proved that intelligence beats violence. It showed that loyalty can't be bought. And it established Dutch Schultz as the most dangerous man in America. One click. 5 words. 300 witnesses. And a lesson that changed organized crime forever. Respect isn't given. It is earned. And Dutch Schultz had earned his.